The single most effective tool any state possesses to influence migration patterns is the state-issued driver's license and identification card. In Nebraska and every other state, the Department of Motor Vehicles stands as the final gate fully controlled by state authority that transforms a revocable federal parole or temporary visa into full participation in American life. No federal law compels Nebraska to accept a Parole I-94, an asylum pending receipt, or any non-permanent federal document as proof of lawful presence. The decision to do so rests entirely with Nebraska's legislature, governor, and appointed DMV director. A lawful non-citizen who cannot obtain a Nebraska driver's license or state ID cannot legally drive, open most bank accounts, board domestic flights after May 2025, rent an apartment in their own name, or a present acceptable list B documentation for employment verification. In a rural state with almost no public transit, denial of a credential is functionally denial of practical residency. States that restrict or eliminate credentials for temporary non-citizens see immediate reductions in migration to those jurisdictions. States that issue them freely become magnets. Nebraska already records every applicant's federal immigration document and save verification result in its driver database. A simple legislative directive could require the DMV to compile and maintain a public or law enforcement accessible registry of every parolee, asylee, refugee, and temporary visa holder who holds a Nebraska credential. The data exists today. Only political will is required to expose it. Direct pathways for Nebraska citizens to force change. Citizens can contact the current governor, Jim Pillen, through the official state website and demand an executive order directing the DMV director to suspend acceptance of parole-based I-94s and asylum-pending documents until the legislature acts. Citizens can locate their state senator on the Nebraska legislature website and request the introduction of a bill amending NRS 60 to 484.04 to exclude all temporary federal statuses from the lawful presence definition, require English-only written testing, mandate visible non-citizen designation on credentials, and direct compilation of a non-citizen credential holder registry. Citizens can sign up to testify at Transportation and Telecommunications Committee hearings, either in person in Lincoln or remotely, to place direct pressure on the 8-member committee that handles all DMV-related legislation. Any citizen may file a formal petition with DMV Director Rhonda Lom under the Administrative Procedure Act requesting immediate withdrawal of all non-English written tests, an end to interpreter use on road tests, and addition of a mandatory English proficiency demonstration. Such a petition forces public notice and a hearing within 60 days. Citizens can urge their county election commissioners and sheriffs to forward resolutions to the legislature demanding restrictions and to document safety incidents involving Restriction Code 9 violations for submission to the Transportation Committee. If the legislature stalls, citizens can collect approximately 125,000 valid signatures to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot prohibiting issuance of any operator's license or state ID to persons lacking U.S. citizenship or permanent residency. Practical effect of restriction. States that have tightened or eliminated non-citizen credentialing, such as Arizona during its 2007 to 2012 DACA denial period, and Texas, with its restrictions on certain foreign licenses, experienced measurable drops in migration from those categories. Nebraska possesses identical authority today. A single bill or executive order can close the gate tomorrow. The DMV is not merely a licensing agency. It is the state's most direct, legal, and immediately effective tool for migration control available under the 10th Amendment. Citizens who concentrate pressure on the governor, legislature, and DMV director can achieve in one session what no federal policy has delivered: a Nebraska where temporary federal status no longer automatically translates into a Nebraska driver's license and the full suite of everyday privileges that accompany it. Conclusion: a clear path to state sovereignty. The Department of Motor Vehicles represents the narrowest and most powerful choke point any state possesses over practical immigration outcomes. Federal parole authority may admit individuals, but only the state credential turns that admission into real residency. Nebraska citizens who understand this reality hold the leverage to reverse the current flow. A focused campaign directed at the governor, the unicameral legislature, and the DMV director can produce swift, concrete results. an end to non-English testing, visible non-citizen markers on credentials, exclusion of temporary federal statuses from lawful presence definitions, and creation of a comprehensive registry of every non-citizen driver in the state. These changes require no federal permission, no new funding, and no protracted legal battles. They rest within existing state authority, ready for activation by ordinary citizens who contact their elected representatives, testify at hearings, and file rulemaking petitions. The moment Nebraska chooses to close this gate, the incentive structure for temporary non-citizens shifts dramatically. Practical residency becomes impossible without the state-issued card, and Nebraska ceases to be a destination of choice for those whose federal status is revocable at any time. The DMV bottleneck is not an abstract concept. It is the single point where state sovereignty can still assert itself against federal executive overreach. Citizens who seize this leverage can restore control over who drives Nebraska roads, who presents Nebraska identification, and who integrates into Nebraska communities on Nebraska's terms. The mechanism is already in place. Only the political will is required to use it,